Let's talk a little bit about Cold Death. Cold Death is basically an homage to Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Let me recap that a little bit so you can see the context where that came from. I discovered Valerian Albanov and the Brusilov expedition when I was looking for a name that sounded like Valak in the Stairway to Hell story, which I'll explain in another video. I wanted to have a name that sounded similar but wasn't the same, because otherwise it was too obvious who I was referring to in Stairway to Hell. Again, go to that video for more information on that. From Valak I came to Valerian when I was just researching names that started with a V, and I came up to Valerian Albanov on Wikipedia, and that's when I started reading about the Brusilov expedition, that ordeal that he went through, how it all ended, how it started, and it just struck me that there was this resemblance with the ending of Frankenstein in Mary Shelley's book. You've got a ship that is basically going on the ice, and then there's this crew that wants to go home. And I thought it would be fun to kind of mix that with something similar, in that you've also had in the Brusilov expedition, the Santa Ana is stuck in the ice and the crew is desperately trying to escape, trying to get to safety because they know that they're going to die. Because if you read up on what happened, and again on the research page I have a link to that, they were stuck there for years, so they were slowly dying and they knew it. I thought it would be fun to mix the idea of the Frankenstein ending with that one, with basically you've got a similar context, ship is stuck in the ice, and they have a monster on board, where it's slightly different. In Frankenstein there's also a monster roaming around there. Here the monster is on board, but instead of a Frankenstein type monster, it's a vampire instead. So that's the idea that I had. That's where Cold Death came from. And then it started developing. I did some research about Russian folklore and stuff like that, and some other things that I can't mention now because I have plans for Albanov, and I'm not going to give him away just yet. I did some research on that and found some more ideas, and actually when he meets the master in the story, there's some stuff going on there as well, which I'm not going to tell you about right now because it's just too much fun that I still have left writing that part. And basically the whole character of Albanov developed from there. When you read about it on the Wikipedia page, and there's actually a book about it, I'll link to that. I read part of that book about the Brusilov expedition. It's quite impressive. If you know the conditions that people lived in 100 years ago, it's not like they were going on a cruise at all. It was harsh. It was rough. If you look at the kind of person that it takes to survive, just being stuck on a ship in the ice for years on end, and then making your way over the ice back to the civilized world, and lots of people dying in the process. You can only have respect for somebody who does that. So I wanted to bring that forward in Albanov's character, is that he's truly a heroic person in the short story. He's not a bad guy, he's a good guy. It's his buddy who's a little bit different. So, but again, I don't know anything about him in real life, but I wanted to bring forward that kind of character, so that I could mention, so that I could do certain stuff with him in for instance, in Stairway to Hell, where Albanov returns, but also so that I could, set up certain things that I have planned for a bigger series or larger books that I want to do with him. So that's where Cold Death came about. That was the second short story that I wrote, and I had a lot of fun with that as well, because it allowed me to play with certain aspects that I hadn't been able to work with when I was writing.